Good afternoon. Welcome to Kent City Council Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, February 4. First up, we have roll call. Kim, may we have roll call, please?
Thank you, Council President. Council President Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Boyd.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, next up we have agenda approval. Any changes to the agenda? If not, may I have a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. Next up, we have approval of minutes for our Committee of the Whole from January 2021. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you so much. Next up, we receive payment of bill in our email. Unless there's anything, we have a motion, please.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Moving right along, we have Elaine here with 2025 liability insurance renewals. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Council, President Kaur, and Council members. Elaine Wee, risk manager for the City of Kent. I am here today to discuss the 3 insurance programs that renewed for the City of Kent on January 1st. That's our liability policy, excess workers' comp, and cyber risk. So we'll start with the liability renewal. Policy limits remain the same. However, there has been some change to the program structure, and the policy limits remain at $25 million. And as some of you may have reviewed in the agenda materials, the premium this year increased about 16%. So, excuse me, some of you may be familiar with this graphic here. The city's total coverage remains at 25 million, which is significant because last year there was discussion about reducing its coverage to about 20 million. This year we were able to retain that policy limit. With tightening market restrictions and companies continuing to leave the market, our insurance broker Alliant was able to leverage a more reasonable increase this year as opposed to our increase last year, which was 56%. As you'll see in the renewing structure, there was some change. AWAC and Obsidian have split coverage at the $5 million above Safety National's initial $5 million, and Upland increased its coverage from $2 million to $2.5, which reduced AWAC's coverage at the top of the structure from $5.5 million last year to $5 million this year. So the significant change this year is to the city's self-insured retention, which is also known as our deductible. Last year, our self-insured retention increased from 1.25 to 1.625, and this year it's increased again to 2.5 million for general liability and law enforcement liability. The self-insured retention for automobile liability, public officials, employment practices remains at 1.625. By comparison, in 2003, King County's SIR for the county was 6.5 million and 7.5 for King County Metro. And in 2004, it went up across the board to $10 million. So it's happening in most local jurisdictions. By comparison, Bellevue's SIR is $5 million and Everett's is $2 million. So it may be a bit disheartening to see those numbers increase, but I feel like it's happening across the board for all jurisdictions. For Washington State, for some agencies such as DSHS, their SIR is 17.5 million, and the DOC is 17 million. So yeah, these are big numbers. And while these increases to the city's SIR are alarming, Kent's program is comparable to other local jurisdictions that are comparable in size and population. And unfortunately, in the casualty market, there's no relief in sight, especially as it relates to the legal environment. Social inflation and nuclear verdicts are unabated right now, which correlates to the growth of third-party litigation. During a webinar about emerging topics in 2005, I learned about a new term in the market called thermonuclear verdicts, which are verdicts that of $100 million or more. So overall, this is a difficult market, and the trends predict that it will continue for some time. Any questions so far?
I have a question. Go ahead.
Oh, Councilmember Boyce, do you have a question?
Yes,
Oh,
thank you, Madam President. Are there other cities that do their own self-insured, do you know, besides Kent, that does self-insured?
So Bellevue is self-insured up to $5 million. And Everett is self-insured up to $2 million.
Those, the one that you know about?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
King County's self-insured up to 10. And Washington State self-insured up to 10, with the exception of DSHS, DOT, and DOC, Department of Corrections.
Okay,
The SIR for those agencies are different. They're much higher.
okay, thank you.
I had a question, Elaine, quickly. So these numbers, are they comparable to nationwide, or are we just looking at Washington?
I've only been looking at Washington. The trends that I look at, however, in what's going on as far as social inflation and litigation financing is nationwide. So those trends are what are affecting these kinds of premiums and these deductibles.
Thank you.
So moving on, the other policy that renewed this year is excess workers' compensation. Overall, the insurance market in this line of coverage continues to balance the significant increases in liability and property. So in this line, it's much more stable. And there doesn't appear to be any imminent changes that, or imminent signs that that will change. Our premiums this year increased about 2.4%, and the SIR for law enforcement claims and all other claims have remained the same. And the last policy that renewed is cyber risk. This provides some continued favorable news compared to other recent renewals. The cyber market continues to be competitive despite increase in ransomware and e-crime among public entities. Public agencies with more robust cyber hygiene will continue to attain higher policy limits with low retentions and rates. Public agencies have been very slow to implement MFA and endpoint detection and response, but thankfully we have both here at the City of Kent. And thanks to the city's IT department, they have gone a step further, and they have what's called extended detection and response, which uses things like automation and behavioral analytics and real-time insight to stay ahead of potential threats. So with our policy, there was actually a decrease of 4.8%, and they have started to increase policy limits for some covered losses, such as like hardware replacement and vendor interruption. So, for instance, hardware replacement the coverage increased from 1 million to 3 million. So if we ever had a loss in that sense, then it would be covered at a higher level. So in summary, double-digit premium increases and significant changes in the city's SIR can be discouraging, but compared to other similar jurisdictions in our area, the city's insurance program is comparable. Kent, despite the considerable increase to the SIR, was able to procure $25 million in coverage, which is significant considering ongoing market developments and municipal experience. Looking ahead, I'll be back in August to discuss renewals for property, crime and fidelity and drone coverage.
Thank you, Elaine. Councilmember Fincher, please.
Thank you. So for IT, was the 4.8% decrease directly tied to the additional steps that they've taken?
Yes, so they look at all that stuff in our application. So yes, they review our application, and that's the information that we include in there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? All right. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have James Endicott with Duo Multi-Factor Authentication Renewal Agreement. Welcome.
Thank you. We did not plan those to be end-to-end. They just worked out perfectly that way. James Endicott, Deputy Director for the IT Department. Today, I am here to seek authorization to enter into a contract with DES, Washington State DES, and CDWG for purchasing of goods and services through the contract. Specifically today, we're addressing our multi-factor authentication. The original contract has since expired. The contract is up for renewal, and so we needed to find a new procurement vehicle. And so today's request is to authorize that. Any questions?
Any questions for James? We're all used to using that by now.
Yeah.
All right, I'll read the motion. I move to authorize the IT director to purchase through the cooperative purchasing agreement the State Department of Enterprise Services has with CDW Government LLC if those purchases are within the city's established budgets and made during the term of the state contract, which is in effect through April 24, 2027, or any later contract extensions the state may authorize.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
James. All right. Next up, we have ECD. Councilman Larimer, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So we have one item tonight. It is appointment to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. Michelle Wilmot. Oh, I'm sorry, you are not Michelle. Kurt will,
Fool everybody like that.
Kurt Hansen will be.
Thank you. Unfortunately, Michelle and company, they all are experiencing the funk. So you guys got me this afternoon. So appreciate the chance. Thank you, Council President, members of council. We have 2 appointments tonight for the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee. Because I'm here, I did some homework just because it's been a hot minute since I was on the LTAC and kind of staffed that board up. And so give a little refresher. It was good for me, so maybe it's good for you as well. Hospitality stays and the tax that's collected goes to the state. Cities can opt for a 1% return of that tax collected to fund their lodging tax activities. We obviously do that here in Kent. We don't have a huge hotel community, but we do generate a good amount of tax every year from a lot of business days and that type of travel. So put it to good use. State requires a committee be formed basically to evaluate grant opportunities as they come in. So the way it's set up, we have 4, think of it as tax generator positions, if you will, people who collect the tax, hotels. And then 4 of the, I will call them tourism representatives that are eligible to spend kind of said money. And then we also have a voting chair. In this case, Councilmember Boyce is our committee chair for Lodging Tax Committee. So of that, we currently have 5 members right now because it's a lean group. It's hard to get hoteliers to participate, and when we do, you know, it's a lot of turnover on that one. So right now we have 2 of the tax generator positions, if you will, and we have 3 of the tourism representative positions. This evening, we have 2 terms reappointments that we're putting forward for council consideration here. The first is Gayla Haas, who is the executive director at KDP. She took over for Barbara Smith, who some of you may recall when she left, I think it was 2019. And as you recall, when you have appointments on partial years, basically somebody moves into a position, they're eligible to serve 2 full-time or full-term terms. Lodging Tax Committee members have 3-year terms, so she's eligible for 2 3-year terms. Gayla has already served 1 of those full terms and then is basically requesting this afternoon for reappointment for her second. The second position, also on the tourism rep side of the sheet, I suppose, is, I didn't want to forget his name, Jim Moran. Jim is the GM at Plaza on the Green, the Best Western property. So he took over for Andrew, who served many years and very similarly served a partial role. That terminated, and now he would start, if appointed here, for his first full 3-year term. So those are the 2 committee positions that we're recommending approval for this afternoon. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just a comment.
Okay, I'll start with Boyce and then Troutner and, oh, okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Lerner. You did a good job. They prepare you for this year, so thank you. You knew what's going on. Hey, I just want to speak on behalf of Gayla and Jim. They are just excellent members to the committee. Jim is one of the newer ones, but he really brings different thoughts and ideals to the committee and get us thinking in a different way. So I just want to wholeheartedly support both of these. They are great appointments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Troutner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well said, Councilmember Boyce. And then just a reminder, anyone that's appointed to the committee, for example, Gayla, I know sometimes they receive funds from this group for different events that they have. She would excuse herself from any kind of conversation.
That's correct.
pertaining to that.
Anytime there proposals put forward for monies to benefit them, they would recuse themselves from the vote. That's right.
Great. Any other questions? Yep.
I do want to add too. There have been you're at the point with Gayla, so there have been applications that came and they have been denied too, right? So just because you're on the appointment, we look at everything wholeheartedly. So thanks for bringing that up.
Great. Okay. If there's no other questions, I will read the motion. I move to appoint Gayla Haas to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a 3-year term starting on January 1st, 2025, and ending December 31st, 2027, and to appoint Jim Moran to the Lodging Tax Advisory Committee for a 3-year term starting April 4th, 2025, and ending April 3rd, 2027. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, Councilmember Larmer. We have Parks next. Councilmember Michaud, please.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 2 items tonight. First up, we have Brian Higgins to talk about the Green River Trail. Welcome.
Hello, it's great to be back. Thanks for having me tonight. So we're just going to talk about a consultant services agreement for some work on the Green River Trail. So this is a really important spot on the Green River Trail. So this is at the intersection of the Interurban Trail and the Green River Trail. So we're just about a mile south of City Hall here. We're just kind of right on the edge of the Green River. And this section right here is kind of an important missing link on the Green River Trail. And so it's been kind of a long-term goal to get the trail connected through here and eventually connected to the rest of the trail system. Here's a little view as you're walking down the Interurban Trail heading south. And here's a little view of where the Green River Trail kind of intersects the Interurban Trail, looking over towards where this trail segment will be built. And then there's a kind of little arrow here that shows where the new trail underpass will go, and it basically is going to fit in on kind of on the inside of the road, next to the road, underneath the railroad overpass there. So it's a very kind of challenging spot to work in. So to date, we've gotten kind of to about the 30% design milestone, so we have a pretty good idea of where we're going with this project. And like I said, this work is going to complete a major missing link on this trail system. And this project was entirely funded by the King County Parks Levy. And this consultant services agreement is basically going to take us to 100% construction-ready plans and specifications so we can go and build it. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Brian? No? Okay. Well, excited to get this work done. All right. I will read the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the consultant services agreement with McLeod Record PLLC, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion passes. Okay, up next, we have Rhonda here to talk about the art plan.
Good afternoon, council members. It's nice to see you all. Yes, I am here to talk about the city art plan. As I think you all know, the City of Kent has a very unique funding mechanism for our public art program. We have a $2 per capita funding ordinance that designates that amount of money for us to put towards city art projects each year. And part of that ordinance stipulates that we come up with a 1-year and 5-year plan each year. So that is what I am presenting to you today, is the 2025 city art plan, and then 25 to 29. So this is just sort of an overview of where the finances are at this point. Our ending account balance for 2024 was about $700,000. Our $2 per capita funding brings in about $280,000 a year. This money did not used to cover administrative expenses, but several years ago with the recession and budget cuts, we were able to save the program ultimately by transferring some of our administrative expenses to it. So now we have a pretty big chunk of salaries and benefits that come out of it, about $176,000. So I'll just get into the projects that we're anticipating for 2025. The first one is a capital project artwork at the Garrison Creek Park renovation. We work really closely as we do our city art plan on our projects with our Parks Planning and Development team. So you'll notice that a lot of these projects mirror what they've got going on. This project, we got it started in 2024. The money was approved in the 2024 plan, so we're just carrying it over. The project had a bit of a stall as we addressed some public works requirements and issues for that water reservoir, but we are ready to get it going again this spring. We have selected an artist, Elizabeth Connor. She's going to be working with the design team to come up with art opportunities and design some art for this park. Another one, another big one is the East Hill North Community Park. This was another one that was moving very quickly forward last year. We had designated $100,000 out of the 2024 plan. We got the artist on board, an artist named Vaughn Bell. And then again, we kind of hit a roadblock. There were some street improvements identified at that site that slowed things down. But now our Parks Planning and Development crew is kind of rephasing the project, and we're ready to get that artist going again. So we already paid her $8,000 for the work that she did last year. So there's $92,000 remaining out of that amount. A new one that we'll be working on that was actually also approved in 2024, so it's a carryover, is $80,000 for some artwork at the Springwood Park reimagining. This park will be under construction very soon, so the artwork we do at this project will not be integrated into the design, but we are planning 2 to 3 functional sculptural elements that we will probably get going once the park is in construction, and get something up there at that park. This is a new one we're really excited about, the Uplands Playfield and Spray Park. This is a big project to redevelop the existing park and fields into a spray park and an interurban trailhead. So we are designating $160,000 to select an artist to work with city staff and their consultants to design something very cool for this park. That isn't that's just a generic spray park image. We would like to continue the digital art project that we started in 23 and then actually launched in early 24. This is a project that works with multimedia artists to commission digital artworks that are shown via the projector at Kearsarge Park. It only costs about $5,000 each year. It's a lot of bang for the buck on that one, and it's a great opportunity for multimedia artists. There aren't a lot of opportunities for multimedia artists to show their work to the public. Of course, we always set aside a little bit of money for our summer art exhibit purchase program. This is where we acquire new portable works for the city collection. Those are the pieces that you see throughout the public areas of the city. We're setting $10,000 aside for that this year. Of course, we always like to keep a pretty good little pool of money for maintenance, just like benches and picnic shelters and everything else in parks. Artwork has life cycle, and we have a very old art collection, so we're always addressing maintenance issues. This was an image of a mural that we actually restored and moved a couple years ago, and we have some things planned for 2025 as well. And then we also have an opportunity fund. We have about $200,000 in there. That's just for, things that come up. Sometimes there's projects that we can't anticipate when we make this plan that, present themselves where it's a perfect opportunity for art. And so this allows the Arts Commission to be a little bit more nimble. And then the 5-year plan is a lot more general and vague. We obviously aren't totally sure of how projects will roll out or what the construction schedule will be, but the list is important for a couple of reasons. I think first, just to show you that we do think out 5 years and try to kind of earmark money where we think it's going to go for what projects. And then also, as you can see, in the italicized text after the headings, I have listed the estimated beginning balance, and you can see that it drops fairly significantly by the time we're out 5 years. And part of that is just because everything's more expensive these days, including construction, and that includes artwork. Another big piece of it is the fact that we are taking administrative expenses out of this account now. And so, of course, every time we have a COLA or benefits increase, that decreases the amount of money we have for art. So I don't have any brilliant solutions to tell you at this time, but we certainly are working inside the department with our department leadership to try to identify some potential solutions for that as we move forward. Any questions? questions.
Thank you so much for that presentation. It looks like we have a question from Councilmember Larmer.
Rhonda, I'm curious, the $2 per capita, how does that compare with our neighboring cities?
Well, a lot of our closely neighboring cities throughout King County and Washington don't even have art funding mechanisms for their cities. Okay. But those that do generally have percent for art, which is much more common locally, regionally, and across the country. And it has pros and cons. The really nice thing about percent for art programs is they can generate a lot more money because it's a percentage of the budget of a capital project. So if you have a giant infrastructure project, obviously 1% or 2% of that is a lot more money than our $2 per capita could ever generate. What has been great about the $2 per capita program for us is that it's not tied to a specific project, so we really can, move it around and apply it. I think ultimately I always say that my dream would be to have both. That would be an ideal world, because then we could use the $2 per capita money to fund maintenance and education and those kind of things, and administration, and then we could have that big pot of money if we have large capital projects that are happening in the city.
Good to know. And when was the last time we made any changes to the $2? Do we raise it?
No, it's never been raised. It was passed in 1985.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions for Rhonda? Rhonda, for these projects and this art plan, do they all get approved by the Arts Commission?
They do.
And how are you fully staffed on the Arts Commission?
We have, we will be, as of February 18th. The mayor's recommending an appointment to our open position, and I think we have our alternate open as well, and I'm interviewing a couple people for that in the coming weeks.
Okay, great. Any other questions? All right, I will read the motion. I move to approve the 2025 through 2029 City Art Plan and authorize the mayor to sign all documents necessary to implement the art plan within established budgets, subject to contract terms and conditions acceptable to the Parks Director and City Attorney.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you so much. Back to you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilmember Michaud. Public safety. Next up, we have Councilmember Boyce, please.
Thank you, Madam President. So we are going to be talking about a renewal agreement with Flux. And it, Commander, is it Bava?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Council President and council members. I'm here on behalf of the Police Department to discuss a renewal agreement with Flock Safety. And this is for automated license plate recognition cameras in the city of Kent. The city initially entered into a contract with Flock back in the beginning of 2023. So we've had those cameras for 2 years now. And if this motion is approved by the council and the mayor, this would allow the contract to renew on an annual basis. Since 2023 and the first year of service with these cameras, they have been instrumental in solving a variety of cases ranging from homicides to stolen vehicles to hit and run cases. And one very notable case was within the first week of turning those cameras on in 2023, we were able to be alerted to the presence of an individual in our city who was the subject of a statewide silver alert, a missing elderly individual, and officers were able to find him driving based on that alert and return him to his family safely. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any question? I do remember that 2023 incident too, right away. Seeing no question? Okay, I would read the motion. I move to authorize the mayor to renew the city contract with Flock Group International within the budget previously approved by council until the contract is terminated as provided for by its terms, and ratify all acts consistent with the authority granted by this motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Let the record show unanimous pass. Thank you, Commander Fowler, and thank you for all the work you do. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Boyce. Now we have public safety. Councilmember Fincher, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're going to hear from Joe Arocto, who is going to tell us about a water franchise or water facilities franchise with the City of Auburn.
Good afternoon, everybody, Council President and council members. My name is Joe Rockto. I'm your utility engineer with the Public Works Department. I'm here to talk about the franchise agreement that we applied for from the city of Auburn, and we're requesting the mayor to, or the council to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. First map that I want to show you is just the different boundaries of the water service areas within our neighboring border. And it's very common to have franchise agreements for utility companies that provide utility services to different cities. You can see our boundary is in the blue, and we are we extend beyond the South City limit. And that's why we're asking for a franchise agreement with the city of Auburn. With that, any questions?
I have none. Anyone else? In that case, I move to authorize the mayor to sign and accept the water facilities franchise with the city of Auburn, subject to final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and city attorney.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from Cheryl Wolchuk Wilcox, and she's going to tell us about some surplus property sale.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheryl Rolsick Wilcox. I'm the Public Works Department's Property and Acquisition Analyst. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about a property that the King County Department of Natural Resources and Parks has made an offer of $110,000 to purchase from the city. It's located off 86th Avenue South in unincorporated King County, so it's kind of off the Horseshoe Bend levee area. The parcel's next to the lower end of the Northeast Auburn Creek, where it flows into the Green River, and the county intends to use it for an environmental restoration project. The property was originally acquired by the city in 1997 for the 272nd and 277th corridor project, and that was finished and open to traffic all the way back in 2000. The parcel's 1.7 acres, or 46,432 square feet, and it has restrictions on it, so it's restricted to agricultural or open space use. And it's also impacted by the creek and the Green River, too. So staff reviewed the appraisal provided by the county, and we all concur that the offer was based on fair market value. And just so you know, the sale is exempt from the city's surplus property process that we normally go through under Chapter 3.12 of the Kent City Code. And it exempts properties sold to a local, state, or federal agency from the surplus process. We've determined that the city no longer needs this property for any public purpose, and we recommend the council authorize the mayor to sign the documents needed to complete the transaction. Are there any questions?
Questions? Comments? In that case, I move to authorize the mayor to take all actions and sign off documents to sell the surplus property owned by the city and located at 86th Avenue South in unincorporated King County to King County for $110,000, subject to final purchase terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second.
It has been moved and circled and seconded. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we're going to hear from David Payne about more dollars from grants coming into the city.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. Good to see you all. David Payne, City Transportation Planner, here to present on the 3 of the grants that we were awarded in the 2024 Puget Sound Regional Council Call for Projects. As an overview, the projects are spread throughout the Kent Valley. The 3 projects represent 2 preservation projects and 1 planning project. As a reminder, the Puget Sound Regional Council has a regional focus, so the projects themselves do tend to focus more both in our manufacturing industrial center area and the regional growth center, which is downtown Kent. So if you tend to see groupings of projects from PSRC in this area, that is typically where they are concentrated. A fourth project that we received award from we'll be bringing back at a future session. We're still working on a couple of the details on that. First project to report out on is the Earthworks Park to Downtown Connection. This is a project from the Transportation Master Plan, Project P85, which serves the area in the upper left-hand corner. You can see primarily it is the primary east-west bicycle or non-modal connection through downtown, connecting from where the Meet Me on Meeker project leaves off at the Union Pacific tracks and 6th Avenue south to roughly Earthworks Park and the Titus, East Titus Street and Canyon intersection. This project would be for visioning, outreach and engagement, planning and preliminary engineering related to improving the project. So you can see the example of a cross-section in the lower left-hand corner. That's our typical cross-section for a collector roadway in Kent. So this would allow us to do something a little bit more detailed, specific to the area and the context, as well as engage with our core stakeholders, anybody who's interested in working in the project, of course, the Parks Department, as a property holder through the area. Should also note that these are 2027 funds, so as much as we want to get started on the work, because of their federal funds, that does take a little bit of while to bring them on board. And lastly, this is a $375,000 award. The second 2 projects are both roadway preservation projects. They're awarded under the preservation set-aside by PSRC. The first is the South 212th Street preservation. The images are reversed there, so it's the middle image, which goes from the Green River to 72nd. These are both projects that carry, back up step. The second project is the South 196th Street preservation project, and that spans between East Valley Highway and West Valley Highway, or 68th Avenue and 84th Avenue. So these are both projects where we'll mill and overlay the road, repair any failing sections of roadway, and evaluate the crossings and sidewalks for ADA compliance. These are both projects that the region is interested in because of their regional traffic. They both have transportation. They both carry a significant number of trucks, and sorry, my phone's going off. I shut it off beforehand. I don't know why it's going off. They both carry a significant number of trucks, so they do serve a regional purpose. And again, or as a reminder, PSRC is actually kind of interesting and unusual that they offer this type of preservation grant. We are unusual as far as MPOs for offering funds for preservation. So it's worth noting that as we continue, as we're looking into starting a new long-range plan with PSRC and participating in that plan, that those are variables that we can influence as part of our participation. So with that, I'm happy, and these are each $1.5 million awards, and with the opportunity to perhaps have those funds increase slightly when other projects in the region aren't able to meet their obligations. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
From the Puget Sound Regional Council for the South 212th Street Preservation Project. Authorize the expenditure of funds and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to final terms and conditions as acceptable to the Public Works Director and the City Attorney.
Second?
Has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, I move to accept grant funds in the amount of $1,500,000 from the Puget Sound Regional Council for the South 196th Street Preservation Project. Amend the budget, authorize the expenditure of funds, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to the final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and the City Attorney.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And then the third one, I move to accept grant funds in the amount of $375,000 from the Puget Sound Regional Council for Earthworks Park to Downtown Connection. Amend the budget, authorize the expenditure of funds, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary agreements and other documents subject to the final terms and conditions acceptable to the Public Works Director and City Attorney.
Second?
Any discussion? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to say thank you so much for all your hard work. This is a lot of money coming our way and a lot of good projects that get to be completed. So, again, thank you to you and your team.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Three big grants. Thank you, PSRC, and thank you to the Public Works team that puts these grants together to send off a rapid plus to send off. And we'll expect to see you next time too. You know that, just keep this going. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Fincher. Thank you, David. We'll see you at workshop. All right, with that, we are adjourned. We'll be here at 5:15 for council workshop. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Welcome to Kansas City Council Workshop for Tuesday, February 4. We have 2 items on our agenda. First up, we have Target Zero Action Plan, and we have David Payne here. Welcome again.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. David Payne, City Transportation Planner for Kent, presenting on the draft Target Zero Action Plan, or the public draft of the document. So tonight's presentation is going to be broken into 3 parts. We'll talk about the process of the plan, the draft plan itself, and then the next steps leading up to the adoption. The process includes both the homework that we did at the beginning of the plan, the engagement that we took on. I'll touch briefly on the advisory group that's been helping throughout the past year. We'll talk during the draft about the plan's relationship to the local road safety plan. We'll talk about systemic analysis and why and how that's different than the local road safety plan. And when we're speaking to the next steps, we'll talk about we're asking for public input on the draft plan, feedback on it. And I'll touch briefly on the implementation phase. So first, the process. So the timeline of the key milestones that we've undertaken over the last year, you see the council meeting check-ins we have in the top row, and then the advisory group. This helps provide a lens into the development of the plan as it's come through or been developed in each of the individual stages. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about the advisory group. So we have an 8-member advisory group consisting of members from community-based organizations, residents, a student, partner agencies. This is to both represent the community, but also the approach of the plan, the safe system approach. It's a multidisciplinary approach, which we'll speak to during the presentation. And each of the meetings also, again, summarize the process and steps taken. It's been a blend of both technical analysis and conversations, blending in the engagement from the public, which has helped inform the plan. And we're roughly on this third bullet, and then we're going to enter into the period of adoption over the next, hopefully, 5 to 6 weeks. So the plan represents an opportunity for us to have conversations around a common vocabulary. When both the residents, the engineers, and the practitioners get together and we start talking about the causes and effects of crashes, we're using the common language that's on the screen. So the first, what do we mean when we say a Target Zero Action Plan? That's a prioritized work plan for us to reach 0 fatalities and serious injuries on the network. That's our goal for the project. When we use the phrase, when we talk about crashes and accidents, typically when we think of accidents, we think of unforeseen events or something just happens. But it turns out when we take a look at the data and what their causes and effects at play, that are in many or most cases preventable. So when we use the phrase crashes or collisions, that's a more technical term. But it allows us to capture that, and then we can focus more on what the causes and effects are. KSI, killed or serious injury crashes. This is a hard one because all crashes are terrible and traumatic. We're talking about lives lost, and we're talking about lives affected, and so it's awkward to use a shorthand for that, but it is part of the focus for the plan is to try and take an objective lens to the development of systemic improvements, to both understand and then focus on the improvements to those conditions. Then we talk about systemic safety. So this is what makes the plan different from the local road safety plan. This is applying changes to the system based on calculated risk and not just on history. So the local road safety plan, which Eric will touch on in his portion, is primarily based on history, where we have proven crash record. And the systemic safety plan is projecting that on areas of the city that have similar characteristics. And then, of course, the safe system approach wheel that y'all have seen, that council has seen before, that this is the federal approach, that we're hanging the whole plan on. Over the course of the last year, we've had 3 rounds of public engagement. Each has had its own separate purpose. They've been divided into problem identification, involving the public in solutions or educating the public, the general public, hearing from them, reporting out on what we've been hearing, and then telling them what we've been doing with the information analysis and the input that we've garnered. It's been roughly 15 events in person. We've heard, to go where the people are. We also had an online survey. It's been an extensive level of effort, including translation at several events. 2 events were done in language for the hosting organization or community-based organization to truly represent the diverse community that we live within. And this has allowed us, with those different phases, to be informed at each step by what we've been hearing from the community, and to again, hopefully, present a plan that represents the whole community. A couple of highlights from the engagement that, to mention. There's a whole lot in the plan, but the engagement event that we did at the school bus districts, or at the Kent School District's school bus driver in training day. These are folks who deliver 10,000 students to and from schools every day safely, and they cover a lot of miles. And so they see a lot of things, not a lot gets past them. So they had great insights into the network, into improvements, helping us identify things to put on our radar. They also brought a solutions-based approach to, suggestions for things that we could look at. It was very heartwarming and also thoughtful. They see a lot. The other opportunities, a lot of education with the public on See Click Fix. Folks came to us with very specific, discrete issues that they saw. Maybe they weren't necessarily safety benefits or safety related, but they saw us as a representative of Public Works, and they said, I want to do this, that or the other. And I said, well, actually, we can fix that right now. Here's plug them into See Click Fix so it has additional benefits. And again, the public came with a solutions-based orientation. We heard a lot of solutions at the same time that they were identifying issues. And then just general appreciation from folks that we were out there holding the conversation. One of the elements that's new from this plan is the identification of what the practitioners call a high injury network. So a high injury network helps identify corridors with the highest levels of severe injuries and fatalities. So you can see the colors on the map. The yellow represents all vehicle or all user crashes. So the about 51% of fatal and serious injuries, that's on about 7.5% of roads. And then if you take a look with the lens of just vulnerable road users, those are pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists, the darker shade, that's about 4.3% of Kent's roads. So then we can start to take a look based on this filtering, if you will, or what are some of the similar characteristics that these areas have that we can then leverage for solution improvements. This is also a requirement of the funding source, the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. In order to qualify for implementation funds, this is a required step. The region is also going through identifying a high injury network for regionally significant roads that has the same methodology and strong overlap with what Kent has identified. I do need to note, though, that for our high injury network, we've removed the state routes, which are controlled access, because these are the streets that the city of Kent is responsible for, even though we do work in partnership with all of our partners to make improvements. The lens for vulnerable road users is also one that the state of Washington has emphasized, and they have a more extensive statewide analysis, which we want to make sure that our plan speaks to that plan, both for understanding and awareness and cross-cooperation, but also for those future potential funding implementation opportunities. And lastly, we're talking about a lot of, or this lens speaks to negatives, but it also, in my view, speaks to positives. Even though this is the city's high injury network for a period of 5 years, in the case of Kent, on this high injury network, we were also able to identify, and because of the crash-based analysis and work that we've done, there are 24 specific improvements on the high injury network that we were able to share with the public. And I brought one of the public engagement items. Basically, this is work that this is not new work for us. We have been identifying and implementing solutions. This is just a lens or an opportunity to check in on the ongoing work that we are doing in the safety realm. Speaking of the question of engagement and the question of equity, we wanted to make sure that our outreach and engagement was informed and that our solutions were informed with an equity lens. Is also a requirement of the funding source, but the image that you see at the left is not new to the city. This is the underserved community score, which helped inform the transportation master plan in 2021 and the prioritization of projects in that policy document. So as a reminder for folks or folks tuning in, underserved communities for the city of Kent as far as the transportation master plan development goes, included identifying communities through sociodemographics that had fewer transportation options. And you can see the definition. These are also known, the different categories are known in the region as equity focus areas. And then the state has similar definitions for overburdened communities. The federal government uses phrases like CEJST, community environmental justice and climate action designations. The point being that there's a lot of overlap and similarities in the definition of the population. But further, for our engagement and involvement, the point that we heard not only from the public but also from our own Race and Equity Office staff is the key for the city of Kent is to do self-identification. We want to do the self-definition. We don't necessarily want to have others be defining for us what our equity populations are. And then further, we want to use this information not only to inform the outreach and make sure that we're reaching out to the diverse population that we have in the city, but also circling back and closing the loop to re-communicate with folks what we've done with the information and what we are doing. Speaking for just a moment about statistics, touching on it, and there's more in the report. The Washington Traffic Safety Commission has a Target Zero dashboard. So these are all screen captures from the dashboard. They've done similar analysis to what we did for fatal and serious crashes. What you see on the screen is focused primarily on fatal crashes for the last 10 years. But a couple of notes on this. The first is the top 3 categories that you see listed. These are priority level 1 areas contributing factors to a crash include impairment involved, walkers and cyclists, and lane departures. And those are the similar characteristics that we found to be the highest percentage for our analysis. So it sounds, maybe not great to say, but our analysis, jives with their analysis, that we're finding the same thing. And then that informs the packages of solutions that we're able to bring to bear. The other aspect of it is over time. So if you look at the 5 most recent years, the fatalities and the fatality rate is higher than the prior 5 years, which isn't going to be too much of a surprise for those of us who work in the safety space. But the trend over the prior 5 years was declining. And that might be a surprise to folks, is that we were actually doing better year over year than we have been over the past 5 years. So that cues our curiosity to try and figure out, well, what's the source of this? What's different? Another surprise for me, at least over the course of the last year, is the level of impairment as a causal factor. It really kind of leaps off of the page. And so, that was a bit of a surprise that it's that high. But I also need to point out that you can't really see at the top of the slide. There's this is again a screen capture. This was a screen capture taken back in May as we were developing the plan. Well, this information has been updated just in the last month, and the level of impairment involved percentage has actually gone up to 62%. So you may ask, how can that be? One of the things that we found over the course of the year, working with the other jurisdictions and working with our own law enforcement, is impairment when an officer takes the data down at the scene of a crash. They don't know whether or not impairment was involved yet. They may have a guess, and so they'll mark that down, but it actually takes time for the toxicology reports to come back and for a toxicology result to even be done. So that's I don't want to say confounding, but it's a concern. And so some of the solutions that we include in our packages of solutions do try to address that source. Another surprise was, for me at least at the beginning of the year, was I thought that public safety and traffic safety were two different topics. And I thought, well, it's going to be difficult to keep folks thinking about traffic safety rather than public safety. But in fact, as that statistic shows, the overlap, they're fairly overlapping. And that's, again, evidence of the safe system approach and how a multidisciplinary approach is necessary for us to make inroads. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Eric to talk about the local road safety plan and how it's different, and then the solution packages.
All right. Thanks, David. Hello, yes, I'm Eric Preston, the city traffic engineer. You've seen me before talking about the local road safety plan several times. And, we continue efforts are to reduce KSI crashes. And this Target Zero action plan really upsizes and expands the local road safety plan, adding 5 elements and 6 principles from the safe systems approach. It also broadens the scope of the plan to make it more inclusive of other city departments and all Kent residents. One of the key components of the Target Zero action plan is setting a policy goal through the planning effort. And so this goal that you see here is one that you adopted, and thank you for doing that. Target Zero, Kent aspires to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries. Kent will continue to invest in safety plans, projects, and programs to make progress toward this goal with a reevaluation of progress in 2030. So this component, this adoption of this goal, just adds further focus and even greater weight to our Target Zero efforts. So from me to you, thank you. The Target Zero Action Plan builds off the work and success of the Local Road Safety Plan, which has a data-driven approach. It also looks through a systemic lens, but at the crash history, the risk factors, and very specific countermeasures. It's a very engineering-focused plan. While it focused a lot on crashes where pedestrians were hit by cars, it did not look at all vulnerable road users. And so the Target Zero Action Plan includes those on 2 wheels, those riding bikes, those on motorcycles, as David mentioned. And the Local Road Safety Plan lives in the lower right quadrants of the wheel that you see on the left, safer roads and safer speeds. And so these are things that engineers have a little bit more control over. So, but the Target Zero Action Plan expands on the Local Road Safety Plan to include all 5 safe system elements. And becoming a truly systemic plan means expanding the scope to not only include those 5 elements, but also the nature of the communities and populations that surround and use our road network, and who may have a completely different daily experience or interaction with our transportation system than I do. The plan takes an equitable approach, considers underserved populations. A truly multidisciplinary approach, as developed in this plan, fills out the remaining 3 elements in that wheel. So when the team got down to project prioritization and in those nitty-gritties there, they started with the same crash data inputs and roadway network information as a local road safety plan. They found many of the same risk factors that the local road safety plan found, like multi-lane arterials, proximity to intersections and transit stops. Then they developed the high injury network that you saw earlier that David explained, conducted equity analysis, gathered lots of community feedback, and took in key considerations like projects already planned and in the TIP or in some other phase of development. They had adjusted analysis segments, they considered ways to leverage other adjacent projects, and integrated advisory group input. As they identified strategies to address top crash types like hit pedestrians, angle crashes, and speeding. The final project list focused on the calculated risks within those two high injury networks, both for all modes and for vulnerable road users. They also removed locations with reconstruction projects in the works like Meet Me on Meeker. And then they assembled project packages to address these top systemic safety needs. So each of these 3 project packages applies different sets of countermeasures to the locations on the high injury network. So in the graphic on the right, you can see how the highest scoring priority project corridors align with our most disadvantaged communities in the hatching there. Package A creates safer crossings for vulnerable road users. Package B encourages appropriate speeds for drivers. And Package C creates safer signals for all users. So I'll use Package A as an example of how this was assembled. So taking an in-depth look, we see that on multi-lane arterial streets with high traffic volumes and posted speed limits of 35 miles per hour or more, where vulnerable road users are crossing without enhanced treatments, we see that those streets overlap. We see where they overlap with the high injury network. And then we ask ourselves, what is the driver doing? Okay? And often we find they're going straight ahead and hitting people that are walking or biking. Often they're also speeding. Then we ask, what is going on around them? What else is happening? It's often dark, often with the street lights on. Often, as David mentioned, either the driver or the person walking is under the influence of alcohol or another substance. So then we develop a list of strategies to address these factors and package them together. I'm not going to read all of this entire list in depth, but on the left, just understand that that is a list of engineering solutions, and on the right are non-engineering or programmatic solutions. So again, this is a complete safe system approach, not just a list of engineering projects like you'd see me give you in the local road safety plan. So on the engineering side, we can make an impact with something more inexpensive at the top of the list, like a leading pedestrian interval, where we have these at many intersections. You've probably seen them. The pedestrian gets their walk sign and they start moving before the green light even comes on for the vehicle. And so we can also do things that are more expensive, like flashing beacons, whether they're RFBs or pedestrian hybrid beacons. Then on the right side, the non-engineering side, speed enforcement can be done targeted either in person, or we can do something automated. That's a consideration right now. We can also do safety training. This is probably one of my favorite suggestions. Safety training for limited English proficiency populations. This came, I heard this in the advisory group, particularly among immigrant communities who may not be familiar with our traffic laws or who have different expectations when they're out on the street. And so with that, I'll hand it back to David.
Thanks, Eric, and good transition to speak to that second round or the second phase of community engagement. When Eric's speaking to one of the solutions that we heard expressed by the advisory group for engagement and enforcement, it's helpful or perhaps useful to note that those were from equity populations represented on the advisory group. So who's doing the speaking in that case is as important or more important than what is being spoken to. The engagement. So some of the highlights from that second phase of engagement. And this represents both the advisory groups and the public's higher ranked solutions, and I've also brought an example of the engagement boards with the sticky dots you can see, and as well as how the questions were phrased for the types of solutions, as focused on the specific type of crashes that were being observed. The first has to do with aligning speed management with improvements. So it's worth noting that 92% of the projects that we've received grant funds for over the last 8 years, when we've implemented the project, those projects have included safety improvements. So that's one of our primary mechanisms to bring safety improvements that are engineering improvements to bear. It's an important one, but it also speaks to the timing and how long it can take to bring in cost to bring those improvements to bear. The second one has to do with, as we've mentioned, educational campaigns to either address impaired and distracted driving or automated enforcement. So I want to highlight two aspects of that. We've already started doing some of the, based on the input that we received. With the project, we did some outreach around impaired transportation use at the Halloween outreach event, around the messaging of if you feel different, you drive different. So that's, again, some messaging from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission. So as we were handing out placards based on the Target Zero Action Plan, raising information and awareness about the plan, we could also start to bring some of that normalizing messaging back to the public. And then automated enforcement. Automated enforcement can mitigate some of the concerns from the equity-based populations around discrimination. So there's no panacea, but enforcement or rules without enforcement that don't really help people either. So that's one solution that was raised by the advisory group and supported by the public. The third, sidewalks with comfortable buffer zones from travel lanes. One of the hypotheses that we had at the beginning was that we would assume that pedestrians were being hit and hurt and killed where we didn't have sidewalks. But when we looked at the data, it turns out that people are being hit, hurt, and killed where we do already have sidewalks, and it's in locations where people are. So that was a useful lens for us, and it helps us again to refocus what our solutions are. Street lighting is an ongoing concern for the city, and so we're continuing to work on it, but the public noted it as well. And then last but not least, raised crosswalks, curb bulbs, and improved pedestrian crossings. So these are one of the solutions that again highlight the importance under the safe system approach to separate either by space or time when cars and vehicles mix, because that's where we see a number of our increased risk of people getting hit, hurt, and killed. So I want to switch gears briefly and talk about the next steps, which is I'll talk briefly about the implementation and then the outreach and feedback that we're asking from the public. The first, touching briefly on implementation, this is a plan, and so we have feasibility for the steps that we can take, the ongoing steps, the steps that we can take in the near term, mid, and long term. So there's a table that breaks out the different improvements into those terms. We also want to talk about oversight and accountability. Of course, the city is accountable to this council and to the mayor, but we're also adding in the consideration of the King County Target Zero Traffic Safety Task Force as a group that we can report back out to. This group meets regularly, and they also have more of the programmatic enforcement, awareness, and education aspect in their program. The city is also fortunate enough to have two sitting members on the King County Target Zero Task Force. And additional accountability that I mentioned of checking back with residents to tell them what we've done, which we do partly with our Transportation Improvement Program updates each January, but going back out to the community-based organizations and public, including translating some of that material to let folks know what we're doing and how we're doing. Lastly, I'm Want to note the funding sources, so implementation, which we've mentioned before, the four primary sources of funding for the city: external transportation, project program funding, Puget Sound Regional Council, the Washington State Department of Transportation, the Transportation Improvement Board, and the U.S. Department of Transportation. 92% of our grant awards have included some safety improvement aspects, and so we'll continue to be leveraging those opportunities for potential solutions. And with that brings us to the ask again for this phase of outreach. So we're asking that the public and other interested parties go to to view the plan online at engage.kentwa.gov. That's the Kent Target Zero Action Plan. This is the project website that we've maintained over the course of last year. The QR code does go to the plan page. The survey is active now. We have a very short survey. We know that time is very valuable to folks. We have a very short survey to ask for folks' input. And the survey questions are listed on the screen. We're looking for, do folks support the plan or not? What have we missed? Want to make sure we're not missing anything. What should we emphasize or add? And so shortly we'll be notifying anybody who's been involved in the plan that's given us their email, contacts, community-based organizations. We'll put it in the city's newsletter. Of course, the advisory group and the agencies that have been participating. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for David? Councilmember Larmer, followed by Troutner, please.
And I'm not sure if it's a question for you or for Eric, but I was surprised to see here that 49% of the accidents out in the dark, actually the streetlights are on. As we evaluate where we want to place streetlights for other safety improvements, are we potentially looking at like a brighter type of light, or is there anything being improved maybe in like the casting light in a larger area or something?
The first detail I would note is that the presence of lights being on or not is what that statistic is counting. So it's not necessarily representing that the conditions were dark at the site. That's my understanding of the crash data, but Eric will chime in and have more information.
Yeah, so there's, when the police officer fills out the report, there's dark with lights on, dark with lights off. That was a very small percentage, but yes, we can either increase the lighting that we have, change the lights out to something brighter. We can add additional lighting, but yeah, that's something that takes an analysis and it can get very expensive on a corridor. But yes, you're on the right track.
Councilmember Troutner, followed by Councilmember Fincher, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Great piece that we have in front of us. Lots of really good information. A lot of people work together to make this what it is. The feedback from the community is very important. Will you remind me, do we need to have, I think this is an important plan for us to have regardless, but does this help us in the future? I know there's certain, like PSRC, do they require this to be adopted by the council for us to receive certain grants? Will that be important in the future? Because I know it's not just like public works. I know like having Sarah on the Target Zero, that helps with some of the other youth projects and safety things that we have coming in the future.
Great observation, Councilmember Troutner. The answer is absolutely yes. And even some of the prerequisites for grants, like the ones that Eric focuses on, for the Highway Safety Improvement Program, having the plan gets you in the door. Having this plan gets us in the door for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant source, but it also provides us additional points, if you will, with the Puget Sound Regional Council of Governments, and having identified a high injury network helps us with the Washington State Department of Transportation. So yes, and.
Right, thank you.
Councilmember Fincher.
Do we have data as for the locations where we have the rectangular rapid flashing beacons for both day and night? What were the accident numbers before they were installed versus after they were installed?
That's a great question, Councilmember. Typically, it takes a couple of years after we've done the installation, but it is one of the actions that we like to do and granting agencies like us to do afterwards. Bear in mind, though, that many of the improvements that we brought to bear, say, for example, in the 2020 local road safety plan, if they were installed in 2022, having the data after 2022, we have the data now from 2022, but it'll be another year or two before we have a full 2 years worth of data to do that comparison. But I'm getting the thumbs up that that was a good answer for a non-engineer. We're happy to bring that back, council member, and we're very attuned to are we making improvements that are lasting.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you so much, David. Briefly looked at this plan, and we have, I think, a lot of work to do. And if you have any questions or comments, please do reach out to David. And I saw that a couple of the streets that we have seen or heard from the community are on here as highly impactful, where we can make some changes, and hopefully they are. I'm sure they are on our work plans in the future. So thank you. Thank you for all the grants you bring in, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you.
To you and your whole team. All right, next up we have Federal Way Link Extension update. Kelly Peterson, welcome.
Good evening, Council President Corr, members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I think back on this project, and I think the very first time I worked on this project, specifically for the Federal Way Link Extension, was in 2011. I was immediately the Corps, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We were talking about wetlands, and we've come a long way since then. And so tonight I'm excited to show you some pictures of where we are today. So for our viewing audience, just a reminder for council, the Federal Way Link Extension runs from Angle Lake down to Federal Way, hence the name Federal Way Link Extension. It's a little under 8 miles. Once it's fully constructed and operational, revenue service begins. It'll take about 12 minutes to get from Angle Lake down to Federal Way. In about 10 years, Sound Transit expects to have over 36,000 riders, and revenue service will begin next year. So what I'm going to take you on is a little bit of a journey on the Federal Way Link Extension project within the city of Kent. The project itself is split up into 3 segments. Segment 1 is split from Angle Lake through the cities of SeaTac and Des Moines, and then a portion of Kent. That portion of Kent is between Kent Des Moines Road and South 240th Street, which is where Lowe's is. And then all of segment 2 is located in Kent between 240th and 272nd Street, which is where the Star Lake Station is. So this map that you have in front of you, you're going to see this a couple times just as we go through a few with these segments within this presentation. The Kent Des Moines station is right in this area right here between Pack Highway and I-5, just south of Kent Des Moines Road. So let's get into it. You guys have seen this slide before in a few presentations. We have some new roads in Kent. For the map on the right, north is to the left. We have 234th, 236th, and 238th, as well as 30th. These are all concrete roads, and this was something that was negotiated in the development agreement with Sound Transit early on back in 2017 or so. And then we have the station is split in 2 in this location here, and then right here. 236 goes underneath the platform, and you guys will see that here in just a moment. This is an artist's rendering. The Kiewit is the contractor for the job. Their architect came up with this. This is constructed today. One of the things I want to point out in this slide, you'll see some street trees. The pictures that you see today, I promise you they are there. It's wintertime, there's no leaves on the trees, but they're coming. The leaves are coming. I know it's cold out there, but I'm looking forward to spring. So this is a good artist rendering. You can see the bus right in this location. That's 236 going underneath the guideway. That's heading out towards Pack Highway, and on the other side is Highland Community College. Here's where the fun begins. I cannot tell you how impressed I am with our multimedia group. They make our stories really, really easy to tell when they get these drone images. And so this is very telling. This is an image looking towards the east. You can see the parking garage. You can see Kent Des Moines Station. And then in the bottom right, right down in this area, that's the contractor laydown yard. And those are a bunch of landscape plants waiting to go in when this picture was taken. As we move along a little bit further, this is going to kind of just spin around. This is looking towards the northeast. We got Pack Highway on the left. You can see 236 right through the middle, and the parking garage and the station, which turned out really nice. I've always said one of the prizes for Kent is not just the light rail itself, but what comes around the light rail and the economic development that comes with the development of the Midway Sub-Area Plan. So as we went forward with this project, when contractor selection was going on, that Midway Sub-Area Plan was a very, very useful document to help the city get what the council and what the community voted for. So it was really helpful. As we twist around just a little bit, we're looking north. You can see the station. One of the things I want to point out, the top of the parking garage here, you can see these black panels right there. Those are solar panels. Both the garages, actually all three of the garages with this project, they do have solar panels. And just spinning around, looking towards the north. It was actually a great day for the drone images. Everything looks fresh with nice rain and the sun was out and everything just pops. You can see just to the east part of the project, you can see some of the landscaping and some of the trees that are in this area here. So once they grow up even a little bit more, it's going to look even better. This one's just looking towards the northeast, or excuse me, southwest. See what I mean by these pictures kind of tell the story themselves. And this is the station that's in your city. 30th Avenue right there is splitting the garage and the station itself, looking towards the south. There's the station itself in the garage. I've been with the City of Kent for 25 years. This is my most favorite picture of any project that I've worked on. I think this really captures the station well. One of the things I do want to point out in here, it's a little bit hard to see, and you're going to see it in a few of these slides coming up. But in the windows here, they call it the glazing, you can see, looks like sticks. And that's actually what they were. That's one of the art pieces. I know Rhonda was here at the Committee of the Whole talking about art. This is some of the art that was included within this project, and Rhonda was also involved with that. This is looking due east, and if you look at those windows, you can see that again. The glazing starts on one side of the station, comes up over the top, and then comes back down the other side. There's three pieces of art at Kent Boeing Station. This is just one of them, and at nighttime, it really pops. That's again, just looking a little bit closer. It was so difficult to pick slides. Hard to not include the photos because they were so well. So this is that same location where the architect had rendering. This is in the evenings, in the dark. Took my mom to the airport last week. I drove by and I was like, I'm stopping. This is approximately that same location. Pretty darn close. I'm a little bit further south in the photo, and again, those street trees, if you look real close on the left, there is, you can see some twigs from some of the trees, but they are there, and I'm really looking forward to springtime when they bloom out. There's the artwork at nighttime where it really pops, and if you're back far enough, you can really see that arc across the 236 and the station itself. This is taken from the southeast corner of 236. And that road going underneath the Guyway is also heading out to Pack Highway. And again, just from the south, looking to the north. These next few slides, this is one of the things I have been really excited to show you. This is an idea we came up with. It was back in 2019. So we need to get some before pictures and some after pictures. One of the things, again, I really wish the vegetation was there, but this is significantly different. Throughout the project, we talked to many different departments, parks, with the art. ECD was heavily involved. Public Works, the police department was heavily involved with SEPTED issues as we went through the different packages and were reviewing the project. We got two more in this area. This is right at the station. Before and after. On top is October 2019, and the bottom one is last month. Significantly different. You can see on the left there's development potential there, so it'll be interesting to see what comes. And this one's from the south looking to the north. This is the Tip Top Trailer Park right here, and you can see right back there's actually one of the trailers. That stop bar you see in each of the photos, that's the exact same location, so it is significantly different. And you have on the east side of 30th, the shared use path. Now we're going to go a little bit further south along the alignment, and we are going to focus on structure C, which is the circle you see right here. This is just south of 259th, and this is if you're on I-5, this is the dip in I-5, and you can see the construction that was happening there. So this was a very interesting piece of the puzzle for this project. The soil conditions were a little worse than what they thought. And so they went from a span of roughly 125 feet to I think it was about 530 feet. When I say a span, it's from column to column. So you see a couple columns here. This was during construction. On the left is July of 2023. On the right is March of 2024, where you can see them getting that constructed. If you're driving down I-5, you see these yellow contraptions. They're called travelers, and they use these to build the guideway and bring that closer together. It's just another picture of the traveler looking to the south. This is what it looks like today. So you can see where you have the girders. You have a column here and a column here, roughly 125 feet. Then you have this big arch. That was supposed to be several columns originally, but their solution was to do these real long spans and get that constructed in there. The wires you see on top, that's called the overhead catenary system. Again, and for our viewing audience, the light rail operates on electricity, and that's how the trains are powered. And now we're going to go just a little bit further and get down into Star Lake, in the Star Lake Station area. This is a similar drawing to the one you saw for Kent Des Moines Station. 270, this is north is to the left. 272nd Street is the city's border. We got new roads, new concrete on 26th, 270th, and 28th, as well as concrete on 272nd. Federal Way is just to the south of us at this location. What we have here, you can see the Star Lake Garage. On top of the garage, you can also see those solar panels, and the station is at the bottom. One of the differences of the station here at Star Lake, this is a side platform, where Kent Des Moines Station is a center platform. So that's how they load between the center and the sides. And just as we rotate around the station, you can see the new road. This is a new concrete road, 26th, 270th, and then it turns into 28th as it moves to the south. And there's our station. Our station is right here. And then this is the I-5 off-ramp right in this location there. If you drive by this at night off I-5, these white vertical panels that you see on the east side of the garage, they light up this really light blue. It's actually a really pretty cool look, and I've seen it one time. I was going to try to get photos. It's fairly new. My apologies, wasn't able to get up there for that. But these do look really nice at night. This is looking to the south, and you can see the concrete roads. This is what I wanted to illustrate here. This is a concrete road where this was an asphalt road before. This has much longer longevity. You have buffered sidewalks. Good way for people to, and all the apartments along 272nd to get up to the station itself. Just as we rotate around, that's the station looking to the east. I love this photo as well. This is looking to the north. You see the little white guy up on top? That's your water tower. Engineering, we just can't get away from it. We look see it on all the photos. And here's some artwork. This is some of the artwork that's on the station itself. This is looking back to the west. And if we zoom in just a little bit, you can see some of that work that was there. Again, Rhonda Billerbeck, she was involved with this process as well. Before and after. So this is 28th. Greenfield Park is just to your right here. This is looking to the south. The station is on the left. You can see a huge difference. The concrete road ends right here. And it's concrete all the way out to 272nd, and portions of 272nd are also concrete. This is 26. This has changed significantly. Unfortunately, those trees did have to go, but it's different times of year. Again, promise you there's more leaves that are coming. And you can see the protected sidewalks there for people who want to use the station. And this is 26 looking to the south. This project fixed the alignment of 26 and the driveway for the multifamily housing across the street. Took out a wire, I believe that was not a wire span, but we got a brand new traffic signal, brand new traffic signal cabinet, all concrete roads. This is a big improvement for the city of Kent for our traffic system. Throughout this project, we try to link our signals up as well, and so we have conduit that's going to extend to the west. Between this project, between the traffic mitigation projects, which I'll talk about in just a second, and a project that Federal Way is working on, we're actually going to be able to connect this traffic signal with our signal out on Pack Highway. So Now I want to talk real quickly about traffic mitigation projects. While this is going to be a different contractor than the rest of the project, it's still part of the light rail project. The reason that it's a separate project is because WashDOT's SR 509 project, part of the Gateway program, they weren't done with their environmental documents at the time, and they wanted to get the project out to help keep costs down as much as they could. They let this contract out for light rail, and then the traffic mitigation came in separately. These projects have to be completed prior to revenue service, and we expect to see those going into construction this year. Up at KDM, that's our first project. I'll talk about that quickly. The building was demolished within the last month. This building came down. At this location, there is a single right turn lane from northbound SR 99 to eastbound Kent Des Moines Road. This will be a dual right turn lane, and that will be signalized. And everywhere you see that's purple there, there'll be new asphalt. The other thing that will happen is we'll call it the Kiewit portion of the project. If you drive out there, you'll see this is a nice wide sidewalk that comes down into 30th. This project will widen that sidewalk all the way around here and almost connect to 234th. There'll just be a small connection that if this property redevelops, we'll get the rest of that at that time. The second traffic mitigation project is a westbound Wreath to northbound Military. They're adding a right turn lane. This one is a big one. This is down on 272nd Street, and that Star Lake Road, there is not left turn lanes, but there will be after this is done. The other thing too that this shows is the purple is new asphalt. However, there was a negotiation with Kiewit, Sound Transit, and the city where there's a split on the asphalt. So if you're out there today, all the road is redone. To the west, the traffic mitigation project will have a new overlay all the way out to SR 99. And I don't have a slide for this, but I also want to point this out. The city did an overlay as well as a road diet on 259th and 260th. Our asphalt overlay stopped approximately the location of I-5. As a part of the haul route restoration, Kiewit, the contractor, will be doing an overlay all the way west to SR 99. We also negotiated in some sidewalk, and so the sidewalk will be done this year as well on the south side, 259th, 260th, and it'll make a complete connection all the way from Military to SR 99. And then the last traffic mitigation project, this is the corner or the intersection of 272nd and SR 99. Most of this project is actually in the city of Federal Way, but there's just a small section right here that is within the city of Kent, but we are working with Sound Transit and with Federal Way on this traffic mitigation project, which will also be supposed to be done this year. So moving forward, we have street vacations and street dedications that need to be done. We'll be coming to you for street vacations at the appropriate time, trying to get everything consolidated. Again, this is a design-build project. We've talked about that before, so all these packages that have come in, staff is currently going through and making sure that all these packages match up. That's been one of the big challenges on this project, and we continue to work on that. Finishing the project closeout process, there's a lot of paperwork, as-built. There's some boundary line adjustments, cleaning up property lines, particularly at KDM Station. Testing. There have been trains in Kent. It's happened twice that I'm aware of, but they're middle of the night. They're in here at like 1:30. They're pushing them on there, but we're going to be seeing them more. There's about a year of testing that they have to go through prior to revenue service. Traffic mitigation projects, which we just spoke about, and Sound Transit has an estimated opening date of early in 2026, and when we get more information, we'll be able to share that with you. This is my last slide for the presentation, but I really want to give a shout out to your staff. There's been so many people and so many departments who've worked on this project throughout the years. That includes the Midway Sub-Area Plan, that includes the development agreement, that includes OMF. Some people are gone now or have moved on. Derek Hawks, Mark Madfy, they're in the audience right now. These guys are the two liaisons when I took this position. They have worked their tails off. Alex Liu, who was a former permit tech, still is working for us. These guys have done an outstanding job. As we've worked through the process, relationships have been huge. We've had to have tough conversations, but we've built those relationships where we can have those conversations, solve problems, and then move on to the next thing. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Any questions or comments? Councilmember Larmer.
So Kelly, just a comment first. Thank you for this. Thank everybody for all the hard work. This is just incredible to see this come to fruition. And then also just a shout out to you. I loved your enthusiasm when you were showing the photos. I can tell how much this project has meant to you. And so that enthusiasm is contagious. And so thank you for sharing it with us.
Councilmember Fincher.
Hi, Kelly. I think you mentioned on Reith Road, Reith to Military, westbound Reith onto Military, there's going to be a right turn lane.
Yes.
Will there be a bike lane there also, or just on the other side?
Derek, do you remember if there's a bike lane on that part?
There's not yet. There is when you go west of that intersection. When you get past Military, you do have a bike, the right turn, there's a bike marker there, so there's a bike signal too.
Like a Sharrow?
Okay.
So bikes, we're setting up as a future project that will have a bike lane, and then that'll be able to continue on to the west.
Okay, thank you.
There's a sidewalk, though.
Yes.
I like that, plus having the bike signal so that they can get across safely also. So both of those, thank you.
Any other comments? Well, thank you so much, Kelly. Thank you for the presentation. The pictures really do look beautiful.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Can't wait to see it in person when it's all done, and so excited.
Actually, that's a great point. Right now, we can't take you on it's still an active construction site, but at some point, we'll figure that out.
Sounds good.
Right. Thank you.
Councilmember Boyd.
Yeah, yes, Kelly, as a resident of Greenfield Park, I said thank you. I see the construction every day, every night, every morning, and you guys are coming along pretty well. And thanks for widening the street, and thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, there's been a lot of improvements because of this project. So we're excited to what happens and excited to see when we get to see it in person. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. And with that, we are adjourned.